Basically, ito kasi mga ajang-ajang na to, either kapatid, anak nitong mga Abu Sayyaf din. No? Ito yung mga bata. No? Kaya itong mga to, basically are members of the Abu Sayyaf also.
Authorities now pursuing Abu Sayyaf-linked Ajang-ajang members over deadly Jolo church blast. President Rodrigo Duterte orders an all-out war against Abu Sayyaf group and other enemies of the state following the twin explosions in Jolo, Sulu. And the Senate resumes its deliberations on the proposal seeking to impose higher taxes on tobacco products. Good evening. Authorities are now hot on the trail to more than 10 individuals who are believed to be behind the deadly bombing attacks at a church in Jolo, Sulu. Here's why from Leia Ilagan.
The military and police are now in pursuit of the perpetrators behind the fatal blast that killed 21 people and hurt at least 80 others at a Roman Catholic church in Jolo, Sulu on Sunday. CCTV footage recovered from establishments near the blast site showed 3 of the bombing suspects. The authorities identified the suspects as members of the Abu Sayyaf-affiliated group Ajang-ajang, notoriously known for kidnapping, extortion, liquidation of soldiers, police, and civilians, among other crimes in urban Sulu.
Basically, ito kasi mga ajang-ajang na to, either kapatid, anak nitong mga Abu Sayyaf din. No? Ito yung mga bata. No? Kaya itong mga to, basically are members of the Abu Sayyaf also.
AFP Western Mindanao Command spokesperson Colonel Jerry Bisano noted that one of the 3 persons captured in the CCTV footage was known as alias Kama, a brother of ASG sub-leaders Suraka Ingog, who was killed in a clash with the military. Kama, wearing a blue-green jacket, was seen in a CCTV clip tinkering with a cell phone that could have been used to detonate the bombs in Jolo Church.
Sila talaga nakita yung pagpitik sa cellphone, no, sakto sa pagsabog. And at the same time, 100% ang identification. Kilala. Hindi yan bago, hindi yan iba dyan sa lugar. Ang problema, hindi pa tinuturo.
Besana noted that Kama was a skilled bomb maker similar to his late brother. This manifested from the fragments recovered from the blast site. According to PNP Chief Police Director General Oscar Albayalde, the materials used in the improvised explosive device were not common.
Ang container na ginamit dito is handmade, most probably, made of GI sheet na medyo makapal. At ang linalaman nito sa lakas ng blast na yon, more or less, ay 2 kilos pataas yung nagamit na explosive substance.
Colonel Bisana confirmed, meanwhile, that residents in Jolo know the suspects very well because they too are residents in the place. However, they remain tight-lipped in fear of their safety.
Kidnapping, extortion, liquidation, hindi lang ng mga sundalo pulis, pati mga sibilyan, yung utang dyan, umiikot dyan. Kilala yan ng mga taga-riyan sa Jolo. Kahit natin dyan, hindi nila sinusubong kasi takot sila.
The military is appealing to residents not to cover up for the suspects. Instead, inform the authorities of their true identity for their immediate capture. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The military sees no indication that a suicide bomber was deployed to mount the twin explosions that ripped through a Roman Catholic church in Jolo, Sulu last Sunday. The Islamic State on Monday claimed the credit for the attack, saying 2 suicide bombers have been deployed to carry out the bombings. Although authorities are not discounting this claim, the military is more inclined to believe that the bombings were not a suicide bomber's handwork based on witnesses' accounts.
In the course of the investigation, may mga natanong na ng mga wounded na nasa hospital. 2 sa kanila sabi na may nakita silang babae na nag-iwan ng black bag on the 5th pew ng simbahan. Coming from the back, parang on the 5th pew, iniwan niya yung bag, umalis yung babae. Then, a few seconds after, may sumabog. So, yun ang method of deployment. So, hindi siya suicide bombing. It was remotely detonated. So that will dispel the reports na may suicide bombing.
Duterte also denies claims that a foreigner is involved in the cathedral bombing and that suicide have already penetrated the said country. President Rodrigo Duterte believes that the twin explosions in Jolo, Sulu is a case of a suicide bombing. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte contradicts the statement of the Armed Forces of the Philippines regarding the twin explosions that rocked a cathedral in Jolo, Sulu last Sunday. He believes that it was a case of suicide bombing. He made the statement during an interview on the sidelines of the groundbreaking of the new site of San Lorenzo Ruiz General Hospital in Barangay Panghulo, Malabon City tonight. The president came to this conclusion after receiving information that a female blew up herself inside the church while a male had himself blown up outside the cathedral. The chief executive also stands firm that there was no security lapses that led to the bombings.
Walang lapses doon because the other bomber was outside. There was no reason for him to be frisked. Either he was just passing by before blowing himself up. Ang problema yan kasi yung babae was wearing a cross pa. Malaking cross sa dibdib niya, so who would ever think that.
Meanwhile, he believes that the terrorist group Abu Sayyaf is behind the bombing incident, and he ordered the Armed Forces of the Philippines to destroy the ASG as well as the other enemies of the state.
That is always my order. Destroy the Abu Sayyaf, destroy the NPA, and destroy the drug organization. If destroying is killing, if you are interested to know, yes, better para sa akin.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV, News and Rescue, Malabon City.
The Department of Transportation has ordered all operators of public utility vehicles to tighten their security in their terminals. Joanano explains why.
The Department of Transportation has alerted all public utility vehicle operators to put all the necessary safety tools in their terminals. The Transportation Department also ordered to have the security protocols in all PUV terminals tightened following the Jolo Sulu bombing that killed 21 and wounded 97 victims. Among the key areas where the tightening of the security protocol should be imposed are the MRT and LRT stations, bus terminals, airports and seaports where there is a large volume of people. It can be recalled that during the Rizal Day commemoration in 2002, an improvised explosive device went off near the LRT Blumentritt station in Manila. 10 individuals were killed in the incident, while more than 100 were wounded. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Immigration is also under heightened alert status against possible entry of foreign terrorists in the country. In a statement released by the Immigration Bureau, they have alerted all the immigration officers in airports and seaports to assure that no foreign terrorists will enter the Philippines. They were also tasked to double their screening on foreign travelers and assure that they all have the necessary requirements to enter the country. The Bureau of Immigration also said that they have been coordinating with various international intelligence agencies for their database for the identification of suspected members of terrorist groups. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Protesters rally in front of the Senate building while the deliberation of the bill seeking to impose higher tax on tobacco products is taking place. Meanwhile, the Health and Finance Departments expressed their support on the Senate version of higher excise tax than that of the approved version of the lower house. Nel Maribohok tells us why.
While the supporters of the tobacco tax hike rally in front of the Senate building during the deliberation of the Senate Committee on Ways and Means for the passage of a bill seeking to impose higher tax on cigarette products, they came face to face with the tobacco farmers from Northern Luzon who opposed the said proposal. As the supporters calls for 90 pesos imposition of excise tax, the farmers on the other hand opposed the bill that they believe may threaten their livelihoods. The farmers have the backing of some local government officials.
Our tobacco farmers are really the ones affected.
The Department of Finance and the Department of Health, meanwhile, are pushing for the passage of a 60 peso tax per pack of cigarettes from the current 35 pesos. This is the same bill being pushed by Senator Manny Pacquiao. Officials of the Health and Finance Department said this will help in funding government programs such as the universal health care.
The government is projected to generate a total additional revenue of 316 billion by 2022 compared to just 72 billion in the House-approved bill. The total difference is 244 billion, which might undermine the effective implementation of the UHC.
DOF proposed rate will avert approximately 713,000 deaths and will result in 3.2 million quitters in adults.
According to DOH Secretary Francisco Duque III, the Universal Healthcare Law would need an approximately 40 billion pesos for its implementation this year. Health experts expressed support on the said proposal.
Ang sanhi ho ng mga heart attack, stroke, galing sa sigarilyo. Ito ho, alam ho namin na attributable sa sigarilyo, pinag-aralan na ho ito.
That the country loses 210 billion a year.
The House of Representatives has earlier approved its version amending the Sin Tax Reform Act. Based on the bill, the excise tax on tobacco products will increase to 37 pesos per pack of cigarette, much lower compared to the Finance Department's original proposal. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Philippine floorball players hopes that more Filipino youth will take up the new sport as the team debuts at the 2019 Oceania Floorball Championships qualifying event in Bangkok, Thailand. Charisse Longboan tells us why.
The qualification event for the 12th Asia-Oceania Women's World Floorball Championship has kicked off at the Huamark Indoor Stadium in the Thai capital, Bangkok. Philippines made its debut appearance at the qualifying event in a bid to compete at the International Floorball Federation 2019 Women's World Championships. The country will compete against 7 teams in the qualification round. The teams will be divided into 2 groups, and first finishers will progress straight to the final and qualify directly for the championships. Second place teams will play a semi-final against the third place team from the other group, with the winners of those matches then qualifying to this year's IFF Women's World Floorball Championships in Switzerland. Floorball is a type of indoor floor hockey with 5 players and a goalkeeper in each team. According to Philippine team captain Jade Rivera, this sport requires a different set of skills, high endurance level, and teamwork.
Other than it being a fast-paced game, it's actually pretty technical po. Kasi we're using po with the sticks to manipulate the ball. And unlike any other sport, it's really highly reliant on your teammates.
The Philippine team underwent rigid trainings for this event, and Rivera believes that their participation will inspire more Filipino youths to take up this sport. Meanwhile, PH Floorball team head coach Noel Johansson hopes that the team will qualify in the semi-final round of Women's Floorball Tournament.
We know it's a hard competition, a lot of good teams here, but still I think we have a good chance to make it the Final Four.
Philippines bowed to New Zealand 4-2 when it first played on Monday. The PH team will go against Australia today and Thailand on Wednesday. The group stage will be followed by the knockout rounds to determine the 4 groups that will appear at this year's tournament in Switzerland. Charisse Longboan, UNTV News and Rescue, Bangkok, Thailand.
Up next on Y News. 15 factories in Bulacan ordered shutdown amid ongoing rehabilitation of the Manila Bay. And children in conflict with the law may experience trauma if placed in shelters, according to an expert. Thank you for keeping me company in the first part of Y News. More reasons behind the stories with Angelo Castro III and Thio after this quick break. I'm Rheena Villamor-Camara. Good evening.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up from where Rheena Villamor-Camara left off. I'm Angelo Castro III. Here are the headlines.
Yung mga operations na ganito, na walang wastewater treatment facility, walang permits, malaki ang contribution nila sa pollution.
The ENR shuts down 15 factories in Bulacan for pumping chemical waste to Manila Bay.
The timetable is getting tight. Every day that we wait, we are cutting down our buffer, and we expect that will, of course, exert pressure on the process.
Comelec admits their timetable for ballot printing gets tight as they continue to await the complete list of candidates for the upcoming midterm polls. And an expert warns putting children in conflict with the law under intervention program may cause them more trauma. A psychology expert stated that minors may be susceptible to experiencing trauma when put under intervention programs or when they are transferred to Pag-asa youth shelters after they have done acts against the law. Grace Casin will tell us why.
The chair declares House Bill 8588 passed on third reading.
The House of Representatives quickly passed their version of the House bill that intends to lower the minimum age of criminal responsibility to 12 years of age. However, what are the possible effects of being declared criminally responsible on children 12 to 17 years of age? According to psychologist Dr. Camille Garcia, a stigma can be left on a child immediately after the moment of their arrest.
It's something traumatic din kasi parang may mga ibang nakakita, ay criminal yun, yung batang yun. Imbis na sabihin mo, may ginawang, ano nangyari doon? Bakit hinuli yun?
Dr. Camille said there is a huge possibility that the children placed under intervention programs may experience depression, especially since they are placed far away from their loved ones.
They will be placed in a temporary shelter without the parents. Kung sanay sila na kasama ang isang ate, magulang, or lola habang natutulog or nandun sa parang alam nila, hindi nila bahay yun eh.
Supposedly, it is also not certain that these children in conflict with the law will be looked after when the time comes that the shelter are filled up to its maximum capacity.
And how secure is the place na supposed to be sinasabi nilang temporary shelter na makakatulong dapat? What are the activities?
Based on the data compiled by the Commission on Human Rights, only 8 of the 63 Bahay Pag-asa youth shelters in the country are accredited by the DSWD. This is because many of the shelters are lacking facilities. We tried to visit one of the Bahay Pag-asa Youth Shelter in Quezon City to know more about the condition of the child they have in their care. However, they declined to give media access to their facilities. In the proposed version of the bill in the lower house, maintaining Bahay Pag-asa Youth Shelters won't be a problem, as they will supposedly be funded on an annual basis, and that there will be each 2 agricultural centers placed in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, where the children can be trained to be productive as part of their intervention program. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Commission on Elections will not hasten the printing of ballots to be used in the May elections. Comelec spokesperson Director James Jimenez said they will even more run out of time if they will already start the printing only to have major changes in the end when the complete list of official candidates come out. Jimenez added that paper rolls continuously into the machine and that cutting them follows certain measurements. That is why it is more sensible to encode the complete list of the national and local candidates onto the machine. The length of each ballot to be used in the May elections is around 20 to 24 inches.
The timetable is getting tight. Every day that we wait, we are cutting down our buffer, and we expect that will, of course, exert pressure on the process. No? Our people are at the NPO almost 24 hours a day now, moving things along, making sure that when we do get to start the printing of the national and local election ballots, that everything will go smoothly with a minimum of disruption.
The Commission on Elections, the Department of Education, and the Department of Science and Technology signed this afternoon a memorandum of agreement for the reinforcement and duties of those who will be part of the Electoral Board in the upcoming midterm elections. DepEd stated that they are working on all teachers' honoraria to be tax-exempt, unlike the barangay and SK elections last year. Yusek Pascua explained that only teachers who belong to the Teacher 1 category receive their honoraria in full amount and tax-free.
Ang wala rito sa MOA na inaayos pa namin nila chairman at saka ng mga ibang mga stakeholders pa ay yung application ng namin, COMELEC, DepEd, and other stakeholders, our application for the honoraria and allowances to be tax-exempt. Katulad nung last year na ginawa rin namin ito sa BIR at saka sa Congress, but for lack of time, we were not able to resolve it. At yung marami sa mga teachers ay nalagyan ng tax sila.
DepEd also said they are satisfied with the results on the distribution of teachers' honoraria last BSKE. Yusek Pascua says it only took less than 15 days for teachers to receive their honoraria compared to past elections, wherein it took months before it was distributed to the teachers who were part of the Electoral Board. Under the Election Service Reform Act, or ESRA, teachers serving in the Electoral Board is only voluntary. Under the law, they are to receive honoraria amounting to 6,000 pesos for the chairperson of the Electoral Board and 5,000 for each board member. Every DepEd supervisor will also receive 4,000 and 2,000 for support staff. All of them are also entitled 1,000 for their travel allowance. For May 2019 elections, COMELEC and DepEd is expecting 262,500 teachers who will serve in the Electoral Board. Senator Cynthia Villar vows to pursue stronger agricultural programs for Filipino farmers if she wins her re-election bid in the coming midterm polls. Let's find out why from Ray Pelayo.
Senator Cynthia Villar wants to strengthen the country's agriculture sector by helping local farmers through sustainable programs. As an incumbent senator, Villar is among those who are pushing for the enactment of the rice tarification bill. On the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, the lady senator noted that the Philippines is left with no choice but to ease restrictions on rice importation as its commitment to the World Trade Organization, and because the country's quantitative restriction on importation of rice already lapsed in June 2017. With rice tarification, the government will impose 35 to 50% tax on imported rice to somehow protect the interests of local farmers. Likewise, under the proposed act, the government has allotted 10 billion pesos to fund farmers' subsidies, which will come in form of agriculture equipment and seeds to be able to increase the farmers' yield while recouping production costs. Farmers who wish to improve their skills may undergo training in farm schools for free. Villar explained that there is always an option to amend the proposed law in case the measure ends up in placing farmers at a disadvantage. The rice tarification bill has already reached the office of President Rodrigo Duterte, awaiting the chief executive's signature.
Bago natin i-liberalize, kailangan mag-tariff tayo. Para yung imported rice na dadating sa atin, lalagyan natin ng buwis para to protect the local farmers. Para naman naging anti-poor yung nilagyan mo ng buwis yung mga importation.
The Senate Committee on Agriculture Chair assures that the low-priced rice of the National Food Authority will still be available in local markets even if the agency is stripped of its importation function. With regards to the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion law, Villar argued that the government's economic managers fell short in calculating its impact to the overall economic state of the country. She noted, however, that the problems with inflation cannot be blamed solely on the train law because it depends not only on the price of oil but also on food prices as food traders took advantage of the new law to mark up their prices.
Doon tayo nadali sa food. Pero if you will analyze it, hindi naman trained law yung food. I think it's cartel.
Meanwhile, Villar noted that she supports the implementation of the government's Pantawid Pamilyang Filipino program, but she suggests that the cash allowance for food be converted into rice as a way to help the local farmers. Villar is running for her second term in the Senate in May 2019 elections after completing her first 6-year term. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
15 factories in Bulacan are facing closure amid the ongoing rehabilitation of Manila Bay. Joanano tells us why.
There is no stopping the Department of Environment and Natural Resources from its crackdown of facilities that pollute Manila Bay. In Bulacan, the agency's regional office ordered the closure of 15 factories in the municipalities of Marilao and Maykawayan for pumping wastewater directly to river estuaries that link to Manila Bay. In a report released by the DOTR on Friday, the agency issued cease and desist order to 12 leather and tannery firms in Maykawayan and 3 in Marilao. On Monday, the DOTR cemented the drainage canal of 5 leather factories to prevent wastewater from draining to the rivers of Marilao and Maykawayan.
Yung mga operations na ganito, na walang wastewater treatment facility, walang permits, malaki ang contribution nila sa pollution ng ating river system.
Claudio accused the said establishments to have violated the Clean Water Act for not having the respective water treatment facility and environmental compliance certificate. The environment official also noted that the said factories are discharging dark and chemically contaminated wastewater that flows directly to Manila Bay. Aside from damage to the environment, the factories' operations also cause inconvenience to the residents nearby.
Ito nga, pag tayo, saglit lang tayo masakit na sa dibdib, no? Nakakasulasok na yung amoy, kung yung mga nasa paligid, lalo pa na may exposure. And I think this is one of the reasons why may complaint dati, pero nag-stop sila and then nag-resurface na naman yung operation nila.
Local officials vowed to monitor closely the concerned companies after the shutdown.
Mabaho na, may kulay, may chrome o sulfide. Yun po yung nakakarating sa aming barangay. Bukas, i-monitor na namin yan araw-araw para ma-check kung meron tumatapon na mga masamang mga tubig na marurumi.
Meanwhile, the DNR warned closure against other companies if proven to have been violating environmental law, particularly by disposing solid water and chemical waste in aquatic environments such as Manila Bay. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue.
A UN study shows that there could be more plastic garbage rather than fish in the sea by the year 2050. Monokson will tell us why.
We can't avoid the fact that every day we encounter plastics in our lives. They may be our supposed friends or colleagues who are untrue. Hence, we call them plastics. Or they could be the real plastics, or shall we say, single-use plastics. Single-use plastics are the plastic containers that are only for one-time use and then thrown into trash. What about you? What kinds of plastics did you use today? It's possible that you bought some stuff at the market today and put them in a plastic bag. Or maybe you bought something to cool you down or some soft drinks, candy wrappers, or the one used to wrap that really tasty mango. Have you ever asked yourself where that plastic that you randomly threw away ended up? Did you know that one piece of tissue paper takes up to 2 to 4 weeks to decompose? However, plastic bottles or plastic bags can take up to 400 to 1,000 years to decompose. There's a meme that couldn't be any more true. Why are there always plastic people in the world? Because they never decompose. Science backs this up because the plastic that we randomly throw away can clog up canals or even end up straight to our rivers and seas, therefore causing floods. This tortoise had a plastic straw stuck up its nose. According to the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, there will be more plastic garbage than fishes in the sea by the year 2050. The Philippines also ranks third in the world when it comes to water pollution. That's why a number of politicians propose a ban for single-use plastics. The government has started the cleaning up operations on Manila Bay, but cannot say for sure when rehabilitation will be completed. Lastly, the sanitation of our waterways will only take longer if we don't do our part in keeping our waterways clean. Mon Hokson, UNTV, News and Rescue.
The security forces is set to recommend to lift martial law in Mindanao if the state enemies will be degraded by 70%. Maya Bermudez explains why, live from Quezon City. Maya, go ahead. Maya, go ahead.
Yes, Jego, good evening. The Supreme Court has already concluded the oral arguments on the petitions questioning the validity of the martial law extension in Mindanao. And the government lawyer has defended President Rodrigo Duterte's proclamation number 216 and said that they will only recommend the end to military rule if state enemies are down to 30%.
Well, actually, that came from Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, that if the military can degrade the rebels up to 30%, no? Actually 70%, maiwan na lang yung 30% capability, then they will recommend that the martial law be terminated.
Justice Francis Hardeleza asked the science behind the government's goal.
The science behind the 30%, and I think, correct me if I am correct, if I am right, the capability of the enemies of the state. One, manpower. That's why you have number of people. Number two, firearms. Number three, I think controlled barangays.
Yes, sir.
And number four, violent incidents. Yes. But do you have an opinion on whether then martial law should be lifted because you don't need the military anymore?
On the other hand, Justice Marvic Leonen asked if state forces' vision to topple down terrorists and rebel groups is consistent with President Rodrigo Duterte's reason why he asked the Congress to put the southern Philippines under martial law.
We will gladly recommend the lifting of martial law to attain that, Your Honor. Mention 70%. It's not just ito yung kasama itong strength of the regular troops, the firearms, to include the strength of the support system, so yung support element. Kaya,
are you binding President Rodrigo Duterte, the Commander-in-Chief? Because I do not see him here. And if you arrive at the target only now, that means you are binding the President.
I will explain to him what happened here, and I will revert to you, Your Honor.
Jego, Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin has ordered both the petitioners and the government side to submit their respective memoranda until February 4. This was the third time that martial law in southern Philippines was put into debate at the High Court during the term of President Rodrigo Duterte. The first two previous attempts to declare it unconstitutional was not voted in favor by the Supreme Court, or was dismissed by the Supreme Court. Jego?
Yes, thank you for that report. Maya Bermudez reporting live from Quezon City. Singer-songwriter Rani Raimundo picks Jemmy Picardal as his bet for the grand finals of Discovery Season 2. The singer and the song as semi-finalists begin their battle in the knockout round. Mirasola Bogodil tells us why.
Semi-finalists from the camps of Filipino musicians Rani Raimundo, Moy Ortiz, Junji Marcelo, Noel Cabangon, Boy Christopher, Venny Saturno, and Top Suzara proceed to the knockout battle of the Wishcovery Season 2, the singer and the song that kicked off on Monday night. First to go through this round were Wishcoveries from Camp Rani, namely Jemmy Picardal, and Arilami Apalis. But to make the vocal battle more exciting, contest producers included their pick from another camp. For this round, Phoebe Olores from Camp Top Suzara was selected. After the vocal showdown, Jemmy Picardal emerged as the winner and will represent Camp Rani Raimundo to the Grand Finals.
Wish 1075, thank you so much for this very nice experience, a very great experience. Kaya thank you so much, Kuya Daniel, Wish 1075. This is awesome, sobra.
Jemmy is a true artist, you know. Ang naibigan ko dito sa batang to is alam niya kung ano yung gusto niya. His tone is incredible, ridiculous, crazy. Yung control is fantastic.
The knockout battle will continue this week. Winners of this round will proceed to the Grand Finals and will have the chance to interpret the songs written by the season's composer Wishcoverers. Mirasol Abugadil, UNTV, News and Rescue.
Up next on Y News.
Huawei lied to the federal government and attempted to obstruct justice by concealing and destroying evidence and by moving potential government witnesses back to China.
Tensions between Beijing and Washington further escalate after the U.S. Justice Department indicts China's Huawei with bank fraud and stealing of trade secrets. U.S. sanctions imposed on Venezuelan state oil firm a day after the U.S. and other nations recognize opposition leader Juan Guaido as interim president. And Brazil's grief turns to anger as death toll from Vale mining disaster hits 65. And those are the reasons behind the stories in the second part of our newscast. Y News returns with William Thio. I'm Angelo Castro III. Good evening.